Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. I'm returning to you this mid-afternoon for an album review for the next Marathon Studio album review for All Time Low's Dirty Work that I got a chance to listen to for their fourth studio album, see what I was going to think of this record overall. So I'm going to discuss what I listened to for this fourth studio album in All Time Low's discography and let you know my thoughts on this 54-minute album, which is 16 tracks. So let's dive into this album review. Now, it starts with Do You Want Me Dead, which actually is a pretty good song in its own way. I mean, there's a few cringe moments with how the mixing is sounding, but Alex Gaskar's vocals are pretty strong in its own way, but there are some cringe moments with this track that I felt to be on the safe side with just the mixing and melody of the song. Just was like, it's kind of cheesy, but it's not terrible. So 4.75 out of 5 for Do You Want Me Dead. I feel like Dancing is above average of a track. I mean, some of the melody is a little cringy with how it sounds. It's not one of the worst, but it's not one of the best tracks on the record. It's not one of the worst tracks on the record. The weakest track I will get to pretty soon. But overall, I think I feel like Dancing is going to get a 4.25 out of 5. It's not terrible, it's not great, but it's above average. So it's fairly in the above decent range or whatever I'm trying to basically say about the track. So yeah, to be fair, it's above decent. But the above average ones, the rating I'm thinking of is a 3.75 out of 5. So yeah, I'm getting my rating system all wrong, so please forget that. And I think I did that in a previous video of mine too, previous few videos, but no, I tend to forget sometimes. But other than that, we're gonna keep going into the rest of the track list in the album. So 4.25 out of 5, above decent track to recorrect myself. Forget About It is a good song in its own way. I do dig this track and for how it sounds. It's not one of the best, not one of the worst, but it's good for how it sounds. Alex Gaskar makes his vocals work, and the drumming and guitar work's pretty solid. So yeah, 4.5 out of 5. Guts was a pretty good song. Really enjoyed the melody to it for how it sounds. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites. I think there's only one song I personally loved, which is the next track. I think you kind of get the gist of which track I'm going to mention. But overall, 4.75 out of 5 for Guts. It's a strong track in its own way, but it does have a few weak moments when the song keeps progressing. But it progresses in a solid way to keep the song afloat and make it a slightly pretty good track. Time Bomb is my personal favorite track on this record. To be honest, it's the only track I personally loved on this record. I like how Alex Gaskar's singing this track, and I just like the uhs, and just the chorus is really hard hitting, and it definitely is a very interesting track. I just love how the song's mixed. I love how the instrumentation is in this track, and Alex Gaskar's singing in it is pretty strong. So really dig this track, 5 out of 5. Just the Way I'm Not is a above decent track. Not one of the best songs, but not one of the worst. So 4.25 out of 5 is deserving for it. It has some cringe moments as you progress through the track, but execution-wise, it plays it safe in its own way. Under a Paper Moon is a good song for how it sounds. I do dig how the mixing is for this track, and some moments in the track do tend to be on the safe side, but other than that, it's not terrible for how it sounds. So, I think Alex Gaskarth makes his vocals work for this track. So, and the instrumentation's pretty strong. 4.5 out of 5. Good track, not one of the best, but it is good in its own way. Return the Favor is a decent song, not one of my cup of tea kind of tracks. It's nice, but it just has some cringe moments as you progress through the track. So, the song has a quirky melody, to be honest, so 4 out of 5. No Idea is a above decent track. It's not terrible for how it sounds, it's just the mixing is a little off to me, and sounds a little quirky and cringy at times. But it's not terrible for how it is, so above decent song. So 4.25 out of 5. Alex Gaskarth makes his vocals work from time to time, but it doesn't save the song from being almost a decent track. But it's above decent. 4.25 out of 5. A Daydream Away is a above decent track too as well. I don't hate this one either. It has nice acoustic guitar in it, and Alex Gaskarth's singing is pretty solid. But it's just the way it sounds. It's like, it's fine. So 4.25 out of 5. That Girl is probably the weakest track on the record. I think this and Return the Favor are the weakest songs. Not the worst, but not the best. So it's average at best. This track, it's just the way the intro starts, it sounds cringy as fuck. And I thought I was going to hate this song, but as it progressed, it was fairly average as it progressed through the rest of the track. So Alex Gaskarth made it work from time to time, but not to make the song a good track. So 3.5 out of 5. Heroes is a above decent track too. It closes out the regular edition for this record. Not really one of the best closing tracks, to be honest, in my opinion, for the regular edition, but not one of the worst. So 4.25 out of 5. It has a catchy guitar riff and drum work, pretty catchy too, but Alex Gaskarth's vocals are just, and the choir chant vocals are hit or miss. So, yeah, 4.25 out of 5. Get Down on Your Knees and Tell Me You Love Me is a above decent track too. Just not my favorite, not my cup of tea. It's off the deluxe edition of this record. And overall, from what I listened to, it's some of the deluxe edition tracks are just like, they're okay. But 4.25 out of 5 for this one. The mixing is not bad, but it's just not a song I'm going to be remembering. So 4.25 out of 5. My only one was probably the pretty good song on the deluxe edition, sadly. I didn't hate how Alex Gaskarth was singing this in the background of the production of the track. And the mixing was pretty strong for how it is. But there were some moments where sonically it just had its hit or miss moments with how he was singing it from time to time. But overall, 4.75 out of 5 for this track. Merry Christmas, Kiss My Ass is a good song. Not my personal favorite. It's a Christmas song, pretty much, but it's not terrible for how it sounds. So 4.5 out of 5. And finally, we get to the official closing track for this whole record. Bad Enough for You. I know there's another track, but I just didn't want to review that Hot Topic live track that they basically mentioned, or whatever, Jazzy Ray or whatever that song was. I didn't want to review that, to be honest. I was like, I'm going to pass on that. But other than that, Bad Enough for You is a above decent song. Not one of the best tracks, but it's fine for how it sounds. Alex Gaskarth makes his vocals work from time to time, but it doesn't really save the song from basically kind of being just a fairly above decent track, so 4.25 out of 5. The melody's okay, it's just iffy of a song. So overall, production, mixing, and execution-wise, I think All Time Low's not new album, their 2011 record, Dirty Work, for the deluxe edition is a decent listen. I think the only tracks I'd probably come back to are Do You Want Me Dead, Guts, Time Bomb, and sadly, my only one. Everything else is hit or miss. It wasn't their best record in their discography, but it's not the worst. So it's fairly decent of a record, but it has some mixing issues, this record. So I can see why not a lot of people like this record. Most critics said it's decent or it's okay, but I try to be fair and give it a chance. And when I listened to it, I wasn't a huge fan of this record. To be honest, it's one of the weakest all-time low records that I've listened to so far. But it could have been better. But it is what it is. It did all right for how it sounded. But if I were to give it a score, I'm feeling a light 7 out of 10 for this record. It's decent. Not one of the best highlighted records that I personally enjoyed from All Time Low, but it's not one of the worst. It's just fairly decent. It's not a listenable record I'd be coming back to, but only a few songs maybe, like Time Bomb, Guts, Do You Want Me Dead, and sadly, some of the 4.5 out of 5 songs are okay, but I wouldn't be coming back to them, and sadly, my only one is the other track I'd come back to, but other than that, yeah, 7 out of 10 for All Time Low, Dirty Work. I hope you enjoyed this Marathon Studio album review for the 4th Marathon Studio album review and All Time Low's discography. I got 5 more albums left to review of theirs. I'm doing 2 re-reviews, which are the last 2 albums, Wake Up Sunshine and Tell Me I'm Alive. But other than that, I appreciate you guys watching this review this afternoon, and I'll see you in my next review.